Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Quest for You is on my podcast to help you become the best you can be. Today, I want to talk about the ego. I've alluded to it a couple times in previous episodes, so today is the day. And I'd like to start out with a quote by Eckhart Tolle. A genuine relationship is one that is not dominated by the ego, with its image-making and self-seeking. In a genuine relationship, there is an outward flow of open, alert attention toward the other person, in which there is no wanting whatsoever. There's another reason I like this quote. Yes, we're going to talk about the ego, but I also have some episodes in the making regarding relationships. I think as early as this week, I'm gonna publish some of those. So this quote, it talks about our demands on relationships that, as Eckhart says, come from the ego. Many of you may have heard of the ego. It's often used in the wrong way, like a bad character trait or personality flaw that we possess. There is your ego again coming through and things like that we say. So let's talk today about the ego and become clear on what it is. It's important to understand because the ego plays an important role in our journey to becoming our best self. And I'm not going to fuss around, but the ego is difficult to explain because it's not a specific thing that we can just put our finger on. Anger is anger. We're pretty clear on what it is. It's pretty obvious when it shows up. And so is joy. Pretty easy to spot. But the ego consists of the many different beliefs that a person acquires over their life. They include your beliefs about your personality, your talents, and about the world in general. It also includes all your thoughts and emotions, basically your entire reality. All of this makes up the structure of your ego. So the ego is created by you, by all the experiences you have had so far in your life, starting from early childhood until now. And many of these experiences don't live consciously in your memory anymore, yet they left a mark in their beliefs and attitudes you deducted from them when they occurred. So the ego is that aspect of yourself that you consider you, the image you have of yourself. Hence, it makes sense that the ego, which is a Latin word, means I am. So just to be clear, your talents and skills in all the aspects of your personality are real. Your friends and family comment on them from time to time, so don't worry, you're not imagining them. But the mental construct of yourself is artificial, meaning how you interpret yourself from the inside. So when we have thoughts about ourself that we agree with, we are building our self-image, our identity. Interestingly, we often don't realize this whole agreeing process. We think it's a simple thought or an observation that we make, when in fact it's more. It's a constant forming of our image of self. And yes, it happens constantly. Thoughts like, I'm not a good writer, or math comes easy to me, my nose is too big for my face, nobody likes me. These are conclusions that we draw based on experiences. My mother, for example, told me back when I was in school learning to write that my handwriting was awful. Internally, I agreed because hers looked smooth and beautiful. And today I constantly repeat this agreement when I'm writing something that others see. Sorry, but my handwriting is really bad. And that is the ego behind these I and me thoughts and statements about our identity. So let's analyze the ego a little bit more, looking from the outside in. First, the thing about the ego is that it's a pretty solid structure. Understandable, it took years to build. My handwriting example didn't take that long. I've been living with this belief forever. But there are others that take more time. Say you're trying to learn to play tennis. Maybe you've tried off and on throughout your life. You play decent, but you really want to up-level your game. You hire a really expensive coach and you practice, but you struggle with certain aspects of tennis. And one day you just conclude, I'm not good at tennis. It's not worth it spending all this time and money, and you give up. And you have now adopted a belief about yourself that has become part of your identity. So next time you're out with friends and the tennis topic comes up, you tell them, yeah, I gave it up a while ago. And then you know that it has become part of you. I'm not good at tennis. I tried, but I stopped. Whatever you say, but it's become part of your belief. You believe that you're not good at tennis. Second, the notions of the ego are fictional. They are your mental constructs, but they don't necessarily reflect reality. My handwriting and your tennis may not be the best at the moment, but that doesn't mean they could not be improved. Your self-image is how you see yourself. And how do you see yourself? By comparing yourself to others? By telling yourself that what is true about you? Or by others telling you what they think is true of you? All these are not fact. The experiences associated with these beliefs may have been real, but the conclusions that you've drawn based on those experiences are fictional. They are just one version of many. Think about different versions of the tennis example that you could have said to yourself. I'm not good now, but I'll put more effort in and I'll be better later. Third, the ego is resistant to change. Remember my episodes on Stephen Pressfield's book, The Art of War? He writes all about resistance and the challenge of changing. So whether it's my handwriting, your tennis, your luck with finding a partner, the shape of your legs, your short eyebrows, your ability to speak in front of people, all these beliefs, once acquired, are hard to shed. The ego likes to hang on to them. You probably know how hard it is to change your beliefs. No matter how many people comment and tell you the opposite, you won't let go. That is the clingy and self-preservation ego holding you back from the changes you may want to make to your beliefs. We attach to the descriptions of our identity. Fourth, the ego fights back with fear. I call fear the weapon of the ego. Fear kicks when we're looking to change something, want to leap forward and out of something that is holding us back. Fear sets in when we're trying to leave the comfort zone of the ego. The two types of fear. Fear that we won't get what we want, and fear that we will get what we don't want. Both types of fear loop us into unpleasant trains of thoughts that often reside in the future. We imagine a certain outcome which triggers fear. Typical results we like to imagine are failure, loss, defeat, maybe death. Anytime we hop onto the what-if train, fear is allowed to run wild. And before you know it, you created a nice little horror movie in your mind that produces anxiety, an uptick in cortisol, and your heart rate. Nothing has really happened, but our body reacts as if it did because that's what you told it. So how do we deal with this ego? First, let's be clear. The ego will always be there. We will never overcome the ego, nor will we completely tune it out. There are probably a few selected people in this world that made it their life's purpose to do just that, completely living in the present and tuning out all fear-inducing thinking. But that takes many years of practice. All I want is to live in peace with my ego. No more fighting. I say this jokingly, but what I mean is this. I don't want my ego to hold me back from my quest for me, from my guidance, my true nature, my larger intelligence, and ultimately my purpose. That means I will work with my ego, and sometimes this work may appear like a fight, depending on how strongly it wants to hold on to something existing. You may have heard the expression, domesticating your fear, all the same thing. For me, it means this. On my quest to find back to who I am, I will challenge any and all of the thoughts, emotions, and beliefs that hold me back. That is my objective. So how can we do this after we just discovered how impossible it seems? Attention. One seemingly insignificant but mighty action, and it's called attention. Because most of our thoughts and fears run us without us taking notice. These are the stories we tell us, and the only time we realize they are there is when we challenge them. When we want to take a risky step that goes against our beliefs. That's when the ego makes itself known and says, hold on here now, not so easy, this is not who you are. Bet you heard that before. We need to become attentive to our inner world more regularly, not just when big things are at stake. It's easier to pivot in the small and less riskier things than in the major ones. Attention means being alert and observing, but it doesn't mean rushing into action. I love the word unfolding, so you hear me use it a lot. Patiently waiting for things to unfold while being present and attentive to how you feel and what is happening. When we come from a place of fear, we tend to feel rushed. A sense of urgency takes hold within us, and when we come from such a place and act, everything is usually forced, tightly controlled by us and rushed. Instead, if we sit with what's happening and trust the process, the outcome, while not always the one that we'd hoped for, will be better for us. This then, the unwanted outcome, is an opportunity for us to pay attention. Wanting something desperately is often a sign that the ego is trying to hold on to something. It could be a sense of security and belonging. It could be comfort and ease, the need for recognition, status, and rewards, the desire to be approved of, loved, and accepted. When you feel anxiety or anger rising within you, then things don't play out as planned. That is the perfect opportunity to pay attention and ask yourself, what is calling here? What does my ego want? Why is this specific person, event, or situation so important to me that is stirring such strong emotions? Pay attention to yourself. We often disregard strong beliefs and feelings as, oh well, that's just me, that's how I am. Unpleasant reactions call for attention. And paying attention, listening, and being patient allows you to understand what the real need is versus the urgent want. Wanting is grasping for gratification. Needing something is different. It's usually not so obvious, but it is what will heal our gratification and give us a more deeper fulfillment and satisfaction. So when haste gets hold of you, don't get sucked in. Let it dissipate and clarity will come. In the heat of the moment, attention can be challenging, so it's best to sit with your decision. I had to learn this. I always thought that I'm impatient. People used to tell me that, so I justified my anger, my frustrations with this: I am impatient. Today I realize that impatience selectively shows up when the ego wants something. Remember, time seasons things, especially those critical decisions. An important email reply that you need to craft, the text message that irked you, the business partner or colleague you need to speak to, your spouse that you need to confront about something that bothers you. First, pay attention and listen to yourself. Listen into yourself. Find out what is really calling you. Sort out the emotions from the facts. Think about what you will say and then let it simmer for a little. I consistently write better emails, text replies, and have better conversations when I do this. As I think about them while I go about my day, the urgency of the ego to get what it wants, which is usually some form of attention or revenge, it dissipates and my real me allows to shine through. And as a last thought, tune into your stories. Listen more closely what you tell yourself from time to time. And then learn to let go of some of those beliefs and explore the possibility of something new and different. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what if I win at this? What will I do? Instead of seeking perfection in everything you do, seek to just relish the current moment without worrying about the result. I encourage you to drop the story and instead engage in the mystery. And to end with a quote from one of my favorites, near and dear to my heart, Rainer Maria Rilke, German writer. Make your ego porous. Will is of little importance. Complaining is nothing. Fame is nothing. Openness, patience, receptivity, solitude is everything. Much love. Talk to you soon.